Hello, my name is Stella Hayes, and I'm 34 years old. My weekends usually begin peacefully, with the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air and the sound of my 10-year-old daughter, Lily, humming as she draws in the living room. But today, my morning was overshadowed by the weight of an invitation I couldn't ignore, my sister Hannah's baby shower. I hadn't been back to a family gathering in years, not since my divorce 3 years ago. It was during that painful time that my mother, Victoria, had openly taken sides against me. Her cutting words still haunted me. "Stella doesn't deserve custody of her child." Those words had stung like a dagger, and the thought of facing her again at the shower left my stomach in knots. Lily, with her bright eyes and ponytail bouncing, skipped into the kitchen holding a small gift box she had wrapped herself. "Do you think Aunt Hannah's baby will like this?" she asked, showing me the adorable rattles shaped like a teddy bear that she had picked out. "They're going to love it, sweetie," I said, forcing a smile. Deep down, I knew Lily's kind heart deserved better than the cold look she would likely receive from my mother. As I tied the pink ribbon on the gift box, my mind wandered back to the many, many times Victoria had dismissed Lily, pretending she didn't exist. Since Hannah's pregnancy, my mother had become obsessively protective of her. Every conversation revolved around Hannah's health, her diet, her baby, while Lily and I were left standing in the shadows. Today, I had no choice but to go. I couldn't deny Lily the chance to celebrate her future cousin, no matter how painful it would be for me. We left the house, Lily chattering excitedly in the back seat as I drove toward the Grand Hotel, where the baby shower was being held. With every mile, my heart pounded faster. I tried to convince myself that things wouldn't be as bad as I imagined, but something about the day felt different, as though a storm was quietly brewing beneath the surface. I just didn't know yet how close I was to being right. The Grand Hotel was everything you'd expect for a lavish family event: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and staff dressed in perfectly tailored uniforms. As Lily and I walked into the banquet room, the scent of vanilla and fresh flowers greeted us. Pink and gold balloons floated from the ceiling, and the words "Welcome, baby," shimmered in gold letters above the gift table, which was already piled high with presents wrapped in pastel paper and ribbons. Lily tugged on my hand, her eyes sparkling as she took in the decorations. "It's beautiful, Mom." "It is," I agreed softly, though my eyes were focused on my mother, Victoria, standing in the far corner of the room. Dressed in an elegant gray dress and a pearl necklace, she had the same cold, calculating look she always wore. As if sensing my gaze, she turned and met my eyes, her expression hardening instantly. I forced myself to keep moving. "Come on, Lily, let's find a spot for our gift." Hannah, who was 7 months pregnant and glowing in a pale pink maternity dress, spotted us and waved us over. "Stella, you made it," she exclaimed, hugging me briefly before leaning down to give Lily a soft squeeze. "And you brought this lovely little lady." Lily beamed. "I picked out a gift for the baby myself." Hannah smiled warmly, but before the moment could last, Victoria swooped in. "Don't crowd, Hannah," she said sharply, her eyes narrowing at Lily as if my daughter's mere presence was offensive. I bit my tongue, not wanting to cause a scene. "Lily, why don't we put the gift on the table?" As Lily carefully placed the pink box on the growing pile of presents, I noticed Victoria whispering something to one of the hotel staff. Her fingertips were trembling slightly, and the staff member nodded before disappearing into the hallway. A sinking feeling settled in my chest. What was she up to now? Guests arrived one after another: Hannah's friends, relatives, and members of the church my mother had attended for years. Victoria fluttered between them, wearing a proud smile as she introduced Hannah to everyone like royalty. Meanwhile, Lily and I sat at a small table near the back, where we could quietly observe without drawing attention. Just as Lily took a sip of her lemonade, Victoria's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Lily, stop sitting around. "You're in the way of the guests." My daughter's smile faltered, and she quickly put down her glass. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You're not in anyone's way, sweetie. Ignore her." Lily nodded, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. No matter how many times I tried to shield her, Victoria's words always seemed to leave a mark. As I scanned the room, I noticed another staff member whispering something to Victoria. My mother gave a small nod and checked her phone, her fingers tapping rapidly on the screen. The air around her seemed tense, as though she were orchestrating something behind the scenes. Whatever it was, I knew it wasn't good. As the baby shower continued, guests mingled around the room, sharing laughter and conversations. The waitstaff circulated with trays of hors d'oeuvres, and the clinking of glasses mixed with soft music playing in the background. But my focus remained on Victoria, who was darting between the staff and occasionally glancing toward Lily. The feeling of unease in my chest grew stronger. Lily, unaware of my concern, twirled the end of her braid and smiled up at me. "Mom, can I bring Aunt Hannah a glass of lemonade? She looks thirsty." My heart warmed at her thoughtfulness. "Of course, sweetie. Just be careful, okay?" Lily hopped off her chair and made her way to the drink table, carefully pouring a glass of lemonade with both hands. She took a few cautious steps toward Hannah, her concentration evident as she balanced the glass to avoid spilling it. Then it happened. From across the room, I saw a staff member subtly step behind Lily, his foot extending just slightly. Lily's small foot tangled with his, and before she could regain her balance, she stumbled forward. The glass slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor as lemonade splashed across the pristine white carpet. Ice cubes scattered around her feet, and she fell to her knees, gasping softly. "Watch out," someone shouted, but it was too late. I shot up from my chair, but before I could reach her, Victoria's voice echoed through the banquet hall. "What were you trying to do?" she shrieked, her eyes wild with fury. "Did you put something in that drink?" Lily's tear-filled eyes widened in shock. "No. I didn't." The sharp slap came out of nowhere, a loud, stinging crack that silenced the entire room. Victoria's hand struck Lily's cheek, leaving a red mark that bloomed instantly against her delicate skin. Lily stumbled back, clutching her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mom, no!" I screamed, rushing forward and gathering Lily into my arms. Her small body trembled against mine, her sobs shaking her shoulders. "I didn't do anything, Mom," she whimpered, her voice barely a whisper. "I promise." "I know, sweetheart, I know." I gently wiped her tears, my own rising like a tidal wave. "You're okay now." The guests murmured among themselves, some pulling out their phones to record the scene. Church acquaintances and distant relatives whispered behind cupped hands, their judgmental glances cutting into me like knives. Hannah, sitting on the sofa with her hands on her belly, looked horrified. Her husband, Robert, immediately knelt beside her, offering her a bottle of water. But my focus remained on Victoria. She stood there, her chest heaving, her hand still raised as if ready to strike again. "Don't you dare touch my daughter again," I said, my voice trembling with fury. "What is wrong with you?" Before Victoria could respond, one of the staff members bent down and picked up something from the floor, a pink envelope, slightly damp at the edges. He examined it curiously before turning to me. "This was under the table," he said. "It doesn't seem like it belongs here." I stared at the envelope, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what was inside, but something told me it was important. And judging by the sudden change in Victoria's expression, her face going pale, her hands beginning to tremble, I was right. The pink envelope quivered slightly in the staff member's hand as he held it out for everyone to see. The murmurs among the guests grew louder, curiosity spreading like wildfire. Where did that envelope come from? Victoria demanded, her voice shaky but still carrying its usual edge of authority. Under the table, the staff member replied firmly. It's a little wet, but it looks important. I watched Victoria's hand twitch as if she wanted to snatch the envelope away, but she hesitated. Her eyes darted toward the security manager, who had just entered the room. He was a tall, imposing man in a black suit, his gaze sharp as he surveyed the scene. He exchanged a brief nod with the staff member, who handed him the envelope. Let's see what we've got here, the manager said, opening it carefully. Inside were neatly folded papers, but it was the handwritten instructions at the top that caught my eye. I recognized the familiar, elegant cursive immediately, Victoria's handwriting. I gasped softly, and Victoria's face visibly paled as the manager unfolded the papers. His eyes scanned the contents, and his expression hardened. This appears to be a detailed set of instructions involving today's events, the manager announced, his voice cutting through the heavy silence in the room. There's mention of staff coordination, the placement of Lily, and specific directions to ensure a disturbance during the baby shower. The room erupted into a flurry of shocked whispers. Hannah pressed a hand to her mouth, her wide eyes filling with tears as she stared at our mother. Robert placed a protective arm around her, whispering something in her ear to calm her. Victoria's composure shattered. She lunged forward, attempting to grab the papers, but the manager swiftly moved them out of her reach. These papers are evidence, ma'am. I suggest you stay back, he said firmly. Sweat glistened on Victoria's forehead, and her lips trembled as she struggled to speak. I was just trying to protect the family, she stammered. That child is a problem. She's always been a problem, just like her mother. Lily's sobs grew louder, and I felt my fury reach its boiling point. You think hurting a 10-year-old is protecting the family? I yelled. You planned this, didn't you? You wanted Lily to fail, to humiliate me in front of everyone. Victoria shook her head wildly, as if trying to deny it, but the evidence was right there in black and white. Her breathing grew rapid, and she staggered backward, clutching the back of a chair for support. Mom, what's going on? Hannah's voice broke through the chaos, trembling with confusion and fear. Why would you do this? Because, Victoria's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. Every time I look at Lily, I see the same betrayal, the same disappointment I saw in her father. I couldn't, she stopped, her sobs choking her words. Before anyone could respond, another voice broke the tension. Actually, the security manager said, stepping forward. We have more evidence. The security manager pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. The hotel security cameras captured everything, including your meeting with our staff last night. Victoria's face turned ghostly pale. No, please, you don't understand, she whispered. Oh, we understand perfectly, the manager replied coldly. And so will the police. Victoria stumbled forward, desperation flashing in her eyes, but two hotel staff members blocked her path. Gasps and frantic whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. The judgment in their eyes burned into her like flames. Lily clung to me, her small body trembling in my arms. The security manager adjusted the tablet and turned to me. I've already contacted the authorities. The police are on their way. A soft groan pulled my attention away. Hannah, still seated on the sofa, clutched her belly. Robert knelt beside her, panic flashing across his face as he pressed a hand to her back. Stay with me, Cass, he murmured, offering her another sip of water. I fumbled for my phone. I'll call an ambulance. My free hand stroked Lily's hair, trying to soothe her, but my mind spun in 1,000 directions. Meanwhile, Victoria's mask of control had completely shattered. Her once flawless appearance was ruined, makeup streaked with tears, her lips trembling, her hands shaking. Outside, the distant wail of sirens cut through the heavy silence. "I just wanted to protect this family," she screamed, collapsing onto a chair. "Don't you understand? That child is a reminder of everything that went wrong. Every time I look at her, I see him, the man who left me, humiliated me, destroyed my life." My heart ached as I held Lily closer. "She's a child, Mom. She's innocent. Whatever pain Dad caused you, it has nothing to do with her." Victoria let out a bitter laugh, wiping her face with unsteady hands. "You don't know what it's like to have your entire world ripped apart. To be left with nothing but debt and shame while everyone at church whispers behind your back." I met her gaze, my voice barely above a whisper. "I do know. Because you made me feel the same way after my divorce." She froze, her breath hitching. For the first time, something flickered in her expression, regret, maybe. But it was too late. The banquet hall doors burst open. 2 police officers strode inside, their boots clicking against the marble floor. The room fell deathly silent. Victoria clasped her shaking hands together as if in prayer. "Please don't do this," she pleaded, her voice barely audible. One of the officers placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us for questioning." "No." Hannah's voice rang out, thick with betrayal and sorrow. Tears streamed down her face as she cradled her belly. "Mom, how could you do this? To us? To Lily?" Victoria looked at her daughter, her lips trembling. "I just wanted to protect your baby. I thought if I got rid of the problem, you'd have the perfect family." Hannah shook her head, tears falling freely. "You didn't protect anyone. You destroyed us." The officers gently guided Victoria toward the exit. But just before they reached the door, Lily's small voice stopped them all in their tracks. "Grandma." Victoria stilled. Lily's tear-filled eyes met hers. "I was scared of you, but I didn't want to hate you. I thought we were family." A single tear slid down Victoria's cheek. "We are family," she whispered. "But I've made too many mistakes." I watched as she disappeared through the doors, her figure growing smaller with each step. The weight of years of pain, betrayal, and resentment lifted from my shoulders, but it left behind an ache that I wasn't sure would ever fully fade. A soft sob broke the silence. Hannah clutched her belly as paramedics arrived, checking her vitals. "I can't believe this," she whispered. Robert held her hand tightly, then looked at me. "She needs to stay calm." I nodded, stroking Lily's hair once more. "I know." The security manager approached us with a sympathetic expression. "We'll give the police everything they need. If your family needs anything, please let us know." "Thank you." My voice was steady, but inside, my emotions churned like a storm. As the officers escorted Victoria out of the hotel, I knew the road ahead would be long and painful. But for Lily's sake, for Hannah's sake, I had to believe this was the start of healing. The warm afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows of my cozy suburban home in Everdale, casting a golden glow over the living room. The scent of freshly baked apple pie filled the air. Lily giggled as she played on the floor with her baby cousin, Ella. "Look, Ella." Lily held up a stuffed rabbit. Ella squealed with delight, her chubby hands reaching for the toy. The sound of their laughter filled the house, chasing away the shadows of the past. Hannah sat beside me on the couch, her face peaceful as she watched her daughter play. "Lily is amazing with Ella," she said softly. "She's so gentle. So loving." "She's grown so much," I murmured, pride swelling in my chest as I watched my daughter cradle the baby. The red mark from that awful day had long since faded. So had her nightmares. Therapy had helped her rebuild her confidence, and the change in her was remarkable. Hannah turned to me, her gaze warm and understanding. And you? How are you feeling? I smiled. Better than I have in years. It's taken time. But we were finally moving forward. But I think we've finally found our peace. Hannah nodded, her eyes misting. Mom still refuses to see us, doesn't she? I sighed, setting my coffee cup down on the table. Yes, she's still at the nursing home. According to the nurses, she spends most of her days writing in her diary. They say the bitterness hasn't faded. Hannah lowered her gaze, tracing a finger around the rim of her cup. I wish things could have been different. I do too, I admitted softly. But we can't control her choices. We've done everything we could to reach out. Now, it's her burden to carry. Lily's laughter cut through the silence, and I turned to see her lifting Ella into her arms. Look, Mom. Ella loves when I do this. Lily twirled around gently, the baby giggling with delight. I smiled, warmth filling my chest. You're going to be the best godmother ever, Lily. Her eyes lit up as she carefully set Ella down and ran to me for a hug. Really, Mom? Really? Really, Hannah chimed in, her voice full of warmth. There's no one better for the role. You're pure, kind, and strong, everything Ella needs. Lily's eyes welled up with happy tears as she hugged us both tightly. Thank you, she whispered. The kitchen door creaked open and Ethan, Hannah's husband, walked in with Ella's bottle in hand. Dinner's almost ready, he said with a warm smile. Stella, you've got to teach me how to bake a pie like that. I chuckled. It's a family secret, but maybe I'll let you in on it one day. He laughed and returned to the kitchen, leaving Hannah and me alone for a moment. We're stronger now, she said, her voice filled with conviction. What happened a year ago broke us, but it also gave us a chance to rebuild. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle deep in my bones. Mom's actions might have fractured the family, but they didn't destroy us. We were building something better now. Outside, the autumn leaves rustled gently in the breeze, their golden and crimson hues glowing in the fading sunlight. Lily scooped up Ella again, twirling around while the baby squealed in delight. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel, hope. Hannah placed a hand on mine, squeezing gently. We've got this, sis. We found our light again. I smiled, watching Lily's laughter fill the room, knowing that despite everything we'd endured, we had come out stronger, united, ready for whatever came next. Yes, I thought to myself, the chains of the past had been broken, and now it was time to fully embrace the future.